everyone. Welcome to 50 Years of Iron Maiden, episode 7, with our very special guest from the Metal Chat podcast. We have Melissa Nee with us tonight. Melissa, please keep on rocking, and please keep on doing that Metal Chat podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for volunteering.
I saw Peace of Mind. I was like, I'm all over it.
Yeah, well, I was glad we had that one open. So you got your first choice with Peace of Mind. And as a little personal history, this was one of my first Iron Maiden albums. I actually bought the very record that I'm going to show you tonight. I bought it for my best friend Bob Shipper for his birthday, but he already had it. So, oh, woe is me. I had to keep it for myself. And that's how I acquired Peace of Mind. I'm going to run through some album facts, and then we can get going into the track list. Okay, so some album facts for you. Peace of Mind was released on the 16th of May, 1983. It was recorded between January and March 1983, so very quick turnaround. As usual, it was produced by Martin Birch, this time going by the nickname Black Knight. It was the first album with Nicko McBrain, and the original title, funnily enough, was Food for Thought, which relates to a tribute album that Harrison got me. Food for Thought, all Iron Maiden covers. Album. And the album art reflects the inner art of Peace of Mind. So there's a fun fact for you. Food for Thought was the original title of Peace of Mind. Another fun fact, there are 4 songs with accompanying movies and or books. The album went platinum in the US, double platinum in Canada, but only gold in Australia. It charted at number 10 in Canada, 14 in the US, and 17 in Australia. And the artwork, of course, was by Derek Riggs. Opening track on this album is a song called Where Eagles Dare. It was written by Steve Harris alone. And Melissa, that is where we are going to start. What do you think about Where Eagles Dare as an opening track?
So this album came out 1 week before I graduated high school. So it was a graduation gift for me. Funny enough, I bought it myself. Yeah, listen, this is full disclosure. This is my very favorite Iron Maiden album. And everybody knows I'm a huge Iron Maiden fan, so that's saying quite a bit. I think that Where Eagles Dare is an awesome opener. I think it's probably one of the best openings of any album. It is a statement piece because it's Nicko's first album with them, and it's also Nicko's introduction to us. Really, I mean, some people knew him from Trust and from Pat Travers and stuff like that, but for most of us, especially in North America, this is the first taste that we have of Nicko, and he just opens it up with a bang. And I read someplace that that drum intro is supposed to be that it's inspired by Stargazer. That they kind of wanted that feel that Cozy Powell had in the opening of Stargazer, which you can definitely tell. I mean, it doesn't sound. That's where I heard it from. I knew I heard it from somebody.
I read that just recently.
Yeah.
There's a funny story. He was like showing Nicko like drum intros, and there was this one song. The name of the song eclipses my memory, but at one point Nicko was like, "Yeah, that was me," and then Bruce was like, "Figures."
Yeah. So I mean, listen, you know, a lot of people are like, "Oh, Nicko, the new guy." He's not really that new of a guy, really, on the scene. He'd been around for a minute. You know, he was on 2 Pat Travers albums. He was on Trust album. I mean, he's been around. He's the oldest one in the band, and he's got a little bit of pedigree. And so he was on their radar, you know, because he was somebody that they did know of. You know, somebody that was on the scene. He wasn't a complete unknown. So I love this. I love this song so much. I saw the movie. It's okay. It's like a World War II movie. Did you guys see the movie?
I haven't seen the movie, but I do have some notes from my father when it's my turn, so stay tuned.
So the movie, you know, it's not a real event. It's like historical fiction because it's set in World War II, which obviously really happened, but it's not a real event. They had to go. They were going to like these people were hostages, and I don't want to spoil it for anybody. You can go watch it, but it's like a what's the word I'm looking for? I just went totally blank. Retrieving
Extraction.
It's a hostage rescue mission.
Rescue, that's the word I was looking for. Oh my God, I went totally blank. It's a hostage rescue movie. And so it is set in the Bavarian Alps during World War II, which obviously really did happen, but it isn't. It is not a real event. Some people do think that because there's so much history with Iron Maiden that this was actually something that really happened in World War II, but it is not.
Yeah, may as well tell you what my dad had to say at this point, because my dad said, 8 out of 10, a good movie, but a made-up story. Scenery and everything was good. Yeah, so my notes here say that this was based on a 1968 war movie starring Clint Eastwood about rescuing a top general, an American general, from the Eagle's Nest, which is in the Bavarian Alps. And I didn't know that about Nicko's drum intro being inspired by Stargazer. But my notes here say, and this could be just my interpretation, but my notes here say that Nicko's opening drum salvo serves two purposes. One, to introduce the new drummer and to imitate gunfire. And, what an intro for the new drummer.
Well, so there is a part in this piece where they do have that gunfire sound effects.
Yes, that is true.
And I don't like it, to be honest with you. I don't dislike it. I just think it's kind of unnecessary, because I think that, and you alluded to this, that the music is able to evoke whatever it is, whether it's gunfire or a plane dropping out of the sky, or all the different, or Alexander marching across the desert, whatever it is that they're trying to evoke, they're able to do that musically. And so I don't really think that the gunfire effects are really necessary.
Interesting point, because I hadn't considered that before, but I think I agree with you. I prefer musical versions of gunfire. I mean, Harrison and I could probably make a top 10 list of songs like that.
Exactly.
My last note here is that the cascading guitar riff is accompanied by one of young Nicko's busiest drum parts, in my opinion. I also noted that Bruce's voice is really starting to mature compared to Number of the Beast. I think there's a notable difference. And even though it's rather long, I think that middle section really does feel like the soundtrack to a really cool battle scene. You're right. I think it could do without the machine guns. I think they're extraneous, or Nicko could have done something cool. But I'm not gonna knock any marks off for it, because Where Eagles Dare is awesome.
It doesn't make it any less of an awesome song. It just is kind of just there. It doesn't really add anything for me. It doesn't add any value, but it doesn't really take away from it. It doesn't last that long. And that cascading guitar reminds me of, or gives me the feel of them parachuting in, which is what happens.
Oh, good point. Good point. That is such a good point. Man.
Yeah.
Okay, Harrison, follow that.
I mean, yeah, Where Eagles Dare, love it. Hell of a song. The vocals are awesome, but it's the drumming that is the center stage. Absolutely phenomenal. Nicko's drum intro is out of this world. When you're comparing to Cozy Powell, that you're a good drummer. Yeah, I mean, like during the recording of the album, Nicko was like, can't be done without a double bass pedal, but Nicko thinks double bass pedals are undrummerish, so he basically forced himself to learn it. And Bruce talks about how at the start he could play a few seconds before his foot just about fell off, but he kept at it and he kept at it and he could finally do it. And then he finished the recording. He's like, right, bloody hell, we're never playing that live. And then of course they opened every show of the tour with it. So,
and I loved how Bruce introduced it when he says, if you've got a problem, call Clint Eastwood to fix it, or something like that.
Whatever the problem is, Clint Eastwood's going to fix it. Where Eagles Dare. And then, on a real dead one of the few exciting moments on that album. But the other song I was referring to, as he talks about in his book, is like, we toyed with different things, and I mentioned there was a terrific tom-tom fill I remembered on an obscure hit from a guitarist called Gordon Giltrap.
Oh,
and Nicko goes, oh yeah, Heart Song, that was me. And then Bruce, of course it was classic McBrain drumming.
Yes, I do remember that. That's classic for him to just be like, yeah, that was me.
But I suppose I should talk very slightly about the album in general, because I did forget to do that before Where Eagles Dare. This could have been the first Iron Maiden album I brought. I had this and I had Killers in my hands, and I picked Killers because it had less songs that I knew on it, and I sort of wanted to get my money's worth in a sense, or on new experiences. I think I made the right choice because I love Killers. I like Peace of Mind, but I think it's slightly overrated. Everyone seems to be like Peace of Mind, Peace of Mind, Peace of Mind amongst like the people who are influenced by Maiden, but I think they have better stuff. And just briefly about Nicko, while this is his first credited recording with the band, he actually filled in for Clive for a Brussels 1981 TV appearance for 3 songs when Clive was sick. And Nicko mentioned Rod made him wear an Eddie mask during that performance, so you couldn't tell it wasn't Clive unless you were switched on.
Right.
But
He
anyway,
also
that's
the devil for an appearance as well. Did a little.
oh yes, the
right.
Devil Man as well. I believe I mentioned that in the Number of the Beast episode.
Yeah.
Yes, you'd alluded to that in the Number of the Beast episode. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I believe that takes us to Revelations.
Yes, indeed. Revelations, Bruce Dickinson's first official writing credit with Iron Maiden, although Number of the Beast episode, we did discuss what he may have contributed to that album, which he was contractually with Samson unable to legally contribute to. So Revelations, what a first song that Bruce brings into the band. Melissa, how did this one hit you?
So this is my favorite of all time. This is my favorite Iron Maiden song of all time. So I have a fondness for this song, needless to say. Most people know all the background about this song. The intro is a hymn. It was written by G.K. Chesterton in 1906. And of course, it's a hymn that Bruce was familiar with because he used to sing it in school. And it's not, I mean, they credit him, so it's not they're not ripping him off or whatever. It's sort of like, it's an intro and a verse at the same time in a weird sort of way. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I agree with you because even the melody changes after that opening hymn.
Yeah, it's an intro, but it kind of is also, it's not like an intro where you could not separate it from the song. It's part of the song. It's never, you would never start Revelations after that. Your song
Right,
would be,
yes.
You would definitely never, ever do that.
It works as a phenomenal intro, I think. Like,
Absolutely.
even though the rest of the song changes after you never go back to this, Bruce has you hooked from the beginning. Oh, God of earth and altar, bow down and hear our cry. It's like you're hanging on every word. And the rest of the song just doesn't let up. It has your attention completely, the whole song.
And Harrison, you know, Bob Shipper and I used to run around after school singing Iron Maiden songs at the top of our lungs. And oh, God of earth and altar was certainly one of the things that we had memorized that we would just jump to immediately. And we could both just jump in and sing at the same time, you know?
I think this is a song that I think that like every Iron Maiden fan knows the words to this song. You know, it's that kind of song where, and it's so, to see it live is so amazing because everybody's singing it and it just sounds, to hear that intro, you know, with everybody in the stadium singing it, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. It's so awe-inspiring to hear that. I love this song so much and I love it live and I wish they would do it every tour.
Yeah, the live versions are quite incredible, and we're going to be diving into those in, you know, quite a few episodes, I think. For me personally, I can't disagree with anything you said. Can only add my own thoughts, and that is that, you know, Bruce Dickinson, the lead vocalist, has the sole writing credit on this. So that means Bruce wrote that really cool riff, that ba-na-na, ba-na-na, ba-ba. I love it. It's simple, but it's such an effective riff. And if I had to isolate just one moment of this song that I like best, it's just before they kick into gear playing that riff really fast when Bruce Dickinson says, "Go!"
Yeah, that's so great.
That's my.
Oh, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead. I didn't mean to
No,
cut
that
you
was
off.
that was done. I was done.
I was just going to say that the other thing about this song that says a lot about this song is the fact that Steve gave it the green light. You know, like you're saying, he's still fairly new in the band. He'd done that one album. And, you know, but for him to be like, hey, I've got this song, and for Steve to just say, to give him full credit for it and to just absolutely give it the green light just goes to show what a great song it is.
Oh, totally. And I think Harrison and I, we covered that there was one track on the first album that had a Dave Murray sole writing credit. And this would only be the very second time that somebody other than Steve had a sole writing credit. Am I right, Harrison?
It's possible one of the other Di'Anno tracks might have been just Di'Anno, but I think it's unlikely. I'm sorry, my memory slips me.
That's okay. The point is, it's a rare occurrence.
It is a rare occurrence, and the fact that he just gave him total carte blanche is just kind of goes to show what a great song it is, and also kind of goes to show that he had faith in Bruce.
Yeah, well founded. Harrison, anything to add?
I mean, it's an awesome song for me. That it's actually the soloing that's the highlight. And great solos, and particularly the first, at least I think it's the first sort of like of the traditional, really quintessential Iron Maiden harmony sections, where the soloing stops to give you this guitar harmony breakdown, basically, a la Rime of the Ancient Mariner and Powerslave on the next album. But this was the first one. I mean, that's probably my favorite part of the song, is that harmony. I mean, but don't count Bruce out, like we've been talking about. Fantastic singer, does amazingly on this song. And when they do this song live, this was an interesting song live because they actually needed 3 guitars to play all of the solo parts properly. The very first sort of like fast solo section on, say, Live After Death is missing the lead solo over the top. But funnily enough, Bruce would sport a guitar on stage for, as he would put it in his book, reasons of musical insecurity, although he was pretty sure whatever he played was never broadcast to the audience.
Yeah,
I've always seen those photographs of him with the guitar during Revelations, but yeah, I didn't know what he was playing. I guess nothing.
which is ready to get hit in the head with his own guitar at in Rio. And
Yes, yeah.
But I'm sure that's for another episode.
Indeed, it is. Let's move on to the single, "The Flight of Icarus." I have this cool CD single, which Harrison may also have, and
I don't have one yet.
I also have this really cool Eddie with the flamethrower reaction figure. Melissa, this was a big one for me. How about for you?
Absolutely. It was the first single, as you said, and I used to have this, but it's gone now, but that's another sad tale for another show. It was the first single. This song is just, and you just like, you're listening to this album for the first time, and it's just like the first song, the second song, and then like, really, the third song is this good too? You can't even believe your embarrassment of riches. You're just like, what? This is just this. It was blowing my mind. It was absolutely blowing my mind. The song is based, of course, on the story of Icarus. The Reader's Digest version is is a cautionary tale. He flew too close to the sun. His father told him not to. It's a cautionary tale about getting too big for your britches. It's a cautionary tale about not taking advice, not listening to your parents. He, of course, flies too close to the sun and perishes. It's a great story. And this is probably one of the probably the first song Iron Maiden song that people were like, what is this about? And actually like went to the library to read about it, to find out about this Greek myth, this famous Greek mythology, this story. And it just is a great example of Iron Maiden giving people more intelligent lyrics than, I'm screwing some groupie, and making it thought-provoking, kind of going back to food for thought. And making it, more intelligent and more thought provoking, and then on top of it all, the vocals are absolutely off the hook. When he holds that note, oh my God, it just doesn't get any better. That's all I got to say on that.
Well, a good point on the mythology. I will point out that it did not go down as depicted by Derek Riggs. Icarus was not burned out of the sky by Eddie with a flamethrower. But that's that's one of my favorite Derek Riggs pieces of art.
Absolutely.
I really like, you mentioned the vocals. This is a really good example of them layering Bruce's vocals during the chorus. I don't know how many layers of vocals there are there, but it sounds amazing. I would say personally, this is Iron Maiden's most accessible single out of them all. It's also the beginning of the Dickinson-Smith writing partnership, which would be very, very fruitful throughout Iron Maiden and Bruce's solo career. So this is the beginning, is Flight of Icarus. And I remember the music video was quite striking, and Nicko is there with this blue makeup on his face, wearing a cloak. It was very strange, but it was cool because it was Iron Maiden recording in the studio as well, which I believe they were recording in the Bahamas, I think, at that point. But it was cool because I hadn't seen stuff like that. I was young. I hadn't seen those kind of images yet where Bruce is singing into the microphone wearing his headphones, his cans, as they say. So very influential music video for us as kids. And Harrison, over to you.
I mean, yeah, like Melissa said, 1, 2, 3 phenomenal songs. Like I'm saying, awesome song. I've been repeating myself over and over, but yeah, amazing song. I mean, I'm not all that fond of the extra layering of the Bruces in the chorus. I prefer the live versions where it's just him giving a bit of a power vibrato. But I gained a new level of appreciation for this song after watching a bass cover of it, where I could actually properly hear what's being played by Steve Harris. And particularly in that finale, as it's building to that crescendo, Steve is doing some amazing bass work there that I can pick out now on subsequent listens because I know what I should be looking for. And fantastic sounding. In the writing, however, this was the song of a bit of an argument between Steve and Bruce regarding the tempo. Steve wanted to play it faster like they do live, and Bruce was like, "No, I want to do it slower." And Steve's like, "This doesn't have anything to do with getting it on radio, does it?" And Bruce is like, "Oh no, of course not," which was a lie. And funnily enough, like you pointed out, this was one of the few Iron Maiden songs to get any sort of radio airplay in the US, lending credence to what you said about it being their most accessible single. Although Bruce does go on to mention that maybe the fact that Steve wasn't all that happy with the tempo on the record is why they hadn't played it for a while after 1986. This was written before they brought it back for the Legacy of the Beast tour. So at the time, it was like 2-3 decades in the bin, basically, which is a shame because it's a great song.
Yeah, and it was great. It's great live. It's just and then for Legacy with the whole Icarus.
Oh, the flamethrowers, the Icarus. Yeah, Legacy was a hell of a tour.
Oh yeah, yep, absolutely.
Okay, so that brings us to track number 4. Smith, Dickinson, and Harris wrote this one. And Melissa mentioned earlier how this album hits you right off the bat with 3 bangers. Well, when we were listening to this as kids, we said, hey, that track 4, it ain't so bad either. So, Melissa, if you're going to die with your boots on. What do you have to say about this track?
I love this song. I know it gets kind of, sometimes it's considered, I mean, it's difficult because, and we'll get later on to other songs that are less loved. But I think that this song suffers from being on such an amazing album. Like because it's number 4 after those 3, you're going to, at some point, you're going to be like, oh, I think the quality's dipped a little bit. But I love this song. I love the message of this song. I think it resonates even today. I love that he makes mention of Nostradamus, and he talks a lot about sort of the media getting you into a frenzy about things, and that you need to kind of just live your life and do the right thing and just kind of get on with it. And I love the message. I just really, really love the message a lot. And as I get older, I love the message even more. And I think it's a great song. The only thing that's a little bit weird for me is in the chorus, when Bruce he sort of says, die.
If you're gonna die. If you're gonna die. Die?
And then, and then they say, if you're gonna die, and then you hear him go, die. That's like really weird. I don't know if like the mic was supposed to be on. I don't know, I don't know what was going on there, but that is the only thing that I find really weird about this song.
Yeah, I hear that part too. Though in my ears, I hear it more as "die," like a question.
Yeah.
But I still, but it always struck me as odd too. So it did jump out at me as well.
Are we sure it's Bruce? Because Bruce actually points out in his book that when they were recording Number of the Beast, there was this odd chanting that they could hear, and it turns out it was Steve singing along while he was playing bass.
It could be Steve, but to me, it sounds like Bruce.
But
that could be my ear. That could be my perception.
I just wanted to segue to talk about what he said about Steve chanting along, and Steve does that live too. You can always see him chanting along the lyrics of the song.
Always. I mean, he wrote most of them.
Yes.
Melissa mentioned Nostradamus, so yeah, this song does recall Michel de Nostradam. With the lyric, let's see if I can do it off by heart. In 13, the beast is rising. The Frenchman did surmise. Through earthquakes and starvation, a warlord will arise. Terror, death, destruction pour from the eastern sands. But the truth of all predictions is always in your hands, which I think is the message that Melissa was referring to, that last line. But yeah, that's all about Nostradamus. And I find I like this song. I think it's like, in terms of that first side, it's fourth, but it's still a really strong fourth. For me, the only kind of thing that's weird about it is in the chorus, it's almost like a spoken word call and response where Bruce says, "If you're gonna die," and then they're like, "If you're gonna die," and it almost sounds like more of a laid back spoken word thing. And that always struck me as odd. And maybe that's why it never quite synced up with the rest of side one for me personally. But again, a very strong 4 for us. It was kind of like the first Iron Maiden deep cut that we discovered, like that none of our friends were talking about. It's like, whoa, what is this Die With Your Boots On song? This is really good. So that's what that song was for us. What else do I have to say? Nothing else. That's all. Harrison, over to you.
I've never liked Die With Your Boots On at all. I think it was a waste of an amazing guitar intro, which I think was a real shame. I don't like those responses, the "if you're gonna die." I don't think they sound good at all. And I really don't like the sort of haphazard, ham-fisted chorus melody that goes with it. And then at the end, Bruce, when he's almost freestyling, going really quick, like, it's all right, but once again, like, I think the whole song is just a waste of an amazing guitar intro.
I have to say that Harrison is not alone in this. That there are a lot of detractors to this song. A lot of people don't like the chorus. They think it's repetitive. They don't like the call and response. A lot of people don't like the ending. So he's not alone in this. He might be alone today with us, but he's not alone in this. And that there are quite a few people who really don't care for this song.
Well, in that case, I look forward to the viewer comments when this drops, and we'll see what people have to say about Die With Your Boots On. Either way, that is the side closer, and we flip the record over, and we're back, folks. We are back. I mean, this is an incredible song.
I don't know if you can see this, but I've got a special shirt on for tonight.
And I also have this very rare Spawn, would be a McFarlane. Unfortunately, the plastic of the packaging is really yellowed over the years, even though the others haven't. So it must be made of some kind of different.
I have the more modern McFarlane.
Oh, very nice. Either way, obviously, this is a signature track. Before I hand it over to Melissa, though, I just want to read my dad's quote, because when I was a kid growing up with these music videos, they always recycled movie footage. So in this case, it comes from the 1936 Errol Flynn film, which is my dad's favorite actor, Charge of the Light Brigade, which he gives a 10 out of a 10. So basically, he says the movie has a lot of Hollywood crap, and a lot of it is made up. The names of the characters remain the same, and the actual charge depicted in the film is accurate. Otherwise, Hollywood crap and all made up. But he also noted that this must have been before there was a lot of animal protection legislation, because apparently a lot of horses died making this film, and a friend of Errol Flynn's was actually impaled by a spear. So the video footage that you see in the music video is taken from this bloody film that resulted in death. Fun fact, but a 10 out of 10 according to my dad. With that in mind, Melissa, tell us what you think about the Trooper.
Well, wow. It's probably the most iconic song. It's probably the most iconic Eddie. I mean, the Trooper Eddie is the Eddie that everybody knows. I mean, everybody also knows about when they do this song, the Union Jack, the red coat that Bruce puts on. Although this last tour,
Yeah, he didn't do it on the Future Past
which is
tour.
a little bit strange, but that didn't do it was a little strange. And of course, you know, there was that problem where they did wave the Union Jack in Ireland, and that didn't go particularly well. But I thought it was a little bit weird that they didn't do it in Australia. But he didn't do it. I saw this on 3 different continents, and he never put the jacket on, and he never waved the flag this time around. But it is one of those songs that even people who don't like Iron Maiden know this song. I mean, my sisters know this song. They're familiar with this song. This and Run to the Hills are the 2 songs that every non-Iron Maiden or casual Iron Maiden person is familiar with. A lot of people complain about it in the set because they're sick of it. They're sick of Trooper. They're tired of hearing it. And yet it comes on and you're just like, you're all in. You're absolutely all in. And again, it's another song where if you want to know what's going on in this song, what the song is about, you can go to the library or Google it, I guess, nowadays, and learn about the Crimean War. It was an actual real life war, 1854. It was a very bloody battle. They lost like 40% of their of the cavalry. It was a very stunning defeat for the British, and it's based obviously on the poem Charge of the Light Brigade, which was very popular amongst everyone when it came out because it really depicted war. And it was kind of like a almost like a, I don't want to say an article, but it was kind of like it told people what was going on at that time. And like everything about this song is great. I know that people say it's overplayed, but I still love this song. I mean, I don't skip anything on this album anyway. I don't skip in general, but I absolutely love this song, and I still sing it every time it comes on, and I still sing it every time I see them do it live. And I do really want him to put the jacket on and wave the Union Jack. And it's not a political statement. It's just, I think it's the props that go with the song.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's a prop, just like the Spitfire coming from the ceiling. That's not political either.
You know, even Sudi wore his jacket, right? Sitting on Nicko's drum kit, he was wearing his red jacket as well. So I mean, it's just an iconic. It's just an iconic, I don't know, prop or whatever you want to call it, but I'd like to see it come back.
Yep, totally agreed. And
it's one of the few recurring Iron Maiden props. They tend to retire everything because their stage set is obviously very heavily sort of based around the album they're touring at the time. So most of their props, unfortunately, get retired. Like that really cool Final Frontier Eddie, backstage Eddie, one tour, one and done in storage. But the Union Jack is one of the few enduring props that Bruce had, which is so it's a shame that it seems to have been also.
Why do you think they didn't do it this time around, Harrison? Do you have a thought on that?
I don't know. You were on when we were on Rock Day during Nation, and we actually talked about the Future Past tour. And one of the things I brought up was the whole stage set seemed quite barren, bare bones, not much going on. Like there was the guns during Heaven Can Wait, but other than that, it was very, very minimalist. I don't know if that was a budget thing or whether they actually made a conscious effort to strip things back.
Yeah, but I mean, he's got the jacket. I mean, cost him any money.
It's an odd one. I don't know.
It's not really. I don't think that's a budgetary issue. I think he has the flag and the jacket already.
Well, it apparently like the very start of like the rumblings of discontent with Clive Burr happened because he got a little bit of extra luggage compared to everyone else. Maybe Bruce's luggage was at capacity.
The deciding factor.
Pack it out.
Do I want to pack one more bag? Nah. I don't have too much to add. Thank you for the history lesson, though. That is, don't necessarily rely on the film for your history lesson. Read a book. I found the lyrics to be really graphic in a good way, like really depicting the battle of the smell of acrid smoke and horse's breath as we plunge on into certain death. You know, they knew they were going to die as they rode their horses into battle. I think it's one of Steve's most descriptive lyrics, a crowning moment for Steve Harris in terms of lyrics. I love that he is just leading the charge himself with the bass. He's doing the gallop. And it's one hell of a hard guitar harmony part to get right. It seems that Maiden sometimes even struggle with that guitar harmony part, getting it to sound right. But the Trooper, I don't want to see an Iron Maiden show without it. I love the Trooper. I would sing along if my throat wasn't in such bad condition. I'd be singing it right now. Harrison, do you agree? Do you want to see the Trooper continue in the set?
I mean, yeah, the Trooper was like the one classic song that I absolutely wanted to hear when I saw them on the Future Past tour. It was one of the few songs, because they didn't play Hallowed, Run to the Hills, and Number of the Beast, which I was fine with, but I was like, I've got to hear the Trooper. Like, I could hear the Trooper every time I see them. Like, and listening to the studio version of the Trooper is like seeing an old friend again after all this time. Like, Bruce is hitting all the notes. It's like, which you forget that he can do, because, you know, live he's a bit different. But no, the studio version's amazing. It's got one of my favorite Murray Smith 1-2 guitar solos in it. This was one of the first songs. Well, it was the first song that I fully memorized the lyrics to. I actually made a conscious effort to read and memorize and learn them. But I'm going to read a passage from Bruce's book because I think it's relevant to sort of the whole Iron Maiden, Steve Harris songwriting, because Bruce talks about Steve's approach to lyrics, because as we may be familiar, Steve Harris tends to cram a lot of words there for Bruce to speak. And it's Bruce sort of realized this when Steve first played him his like demo recording for songwriting for this song, The Trooper, where Steve was whistling the vocal melody, as Bruce put it, like a happy postman. And he's just like, I suddenly understood why a lot of Maiden vocal lines were virtually unsingable, or at least required careful attention to phrasing to ensure you didn't bite off the end of your tongue while wrapping your gills around the unnecessary consonants. For Steve, the words exist in rhythmic space first and foremost, then perhaps lyrical or poetic space, and lastly in a format designed to make the most of the human voice. It took me years to figure this out, and when the penny finally dropped, it was a relief. I didn't get nearly so cross and frustrated at the melodies and lyrics produced by Steve once I understood his motivation. In return, over the years, Steve has learned to live with the voice as an instrument, which bends and shapes to create moods and is not simply an assembly of Lego bricks. So that's sort of a behind-the-scenes look into Steve's songwriting and how he constructs these lyrics that Bruce has to sort of get out in time.
Yeah, it's like he makes these he makes these lyrics and he doesn't really think about how they're going to get sung. And he's very fortunate that he has somebody like Bruce that can maneuver them.
All right, well, let's move on to my favorite song, Still Life. Now, I'm going to explain the intro first, but before I do that, I'm going to play it forwards. As you guys know, it's Nicko speaking backwards. You know, you've heard it before. You all know it. This is it forwards. And I'm going to see if either of you can translate it. Let's hear it.
What said the thing with 3 bonds? Good metal with thing you won't understand.
So I know that the second half is "Don't meddle with things you don't understand," and I think it's supposed to be a parodic
He's imitating
impression of Idi Amin.
That's right. Yeah. Idi Amin, yes. So what he's saying is,
What who said the thing with 3 bonds?
What who said the thing with 3 bonks, which means 3 heads? What who said the thing? And you hear him say that a lot. You hear Nicko say, what who said the thing? In a lot of other places that we'll get to in future episodes. But yeah, that's what he's saying. What who said the thing with 3 bonks? Don't meddle with things you don't understand. With a burp at the end. That has nothing to do with the song, really. Well, I guess it kind of does. It's about mystical. Well, let's have Melissa take over. This is one of the rare Dave Murray co-writes, by the way. This is a
Dave Murray co-write is
feature.
always a banger.
Always quality. But let's
Yes.
throw it to Melissa.
So, so I was going to talk about the intro, but you already did. I think this is an underrated song. It's one of my favorite songs on this album. And you talk about that this is a Dave Murray song, and you can tell that it's a Dave Murray song because the intro is all Dave. It has his name written all over it. That bluesy intro is just, I don't mind the Nicko thing, by the way, but once Dave gets going, it's just such a great intro. The lyrics of the song, it's based on a short story about a guy who buys a house by a lake, and the lake is talking to him, and he's going crazy, and that's what the song is about. I didn't read the short story, so I don't really know it. But that's the word on the street about what that's about. The song is just, I think the song is just great. Now they make mention, of course, of the album because there's no title track on this album. So this is the closest you get to a title track because they make mention of Peace of Mind.
With that
like
cool
the
little
ending of
vocal
this
effect
song.
going on.
I think that you can definitely tell that this is a Dave Murray song. I think that his signature is all over it from the beginning to the end.
100% agreed. Like I said, this is my favorite song. It just struck me as different because it's the first kind of slow moment on the album since Revelations on side 1. So here we are, same spot in side 2, and we get that kind of slow intro. But then, of course, it takes off, and Nicko does this great drum roll, and then Bruce comes in with the more energetic part of the vocals. I had this song memorized, and I remember when I was in the 9th grade, I freaking sang the whole thing. I had it all memorized. I sang the whole thing on the phone for a girl, and she just thought it was the most ridiculous thing that she'd ever heard in her life. But she did tell me she liked the part where I said, "Will give me peace of mind." My personal favorite song. It's just very special to me, and it's unique in the Maiden catalog. And although we'll not get there yet, I think there's only one released live version of it available on CD.
Officially.
Correct.
Yes.
All right, over to you, Harrison.
Yeah, I mean, hell of a deep cut. I love it. Particularly this and Revelations give a bit of stylistic variety that Number of the Beast perhaps didn't have. Yeah, I love the sort of like varying intensity this song has. Creates like this moody, atmospheric tune. We'd get more of those in the future with Iron Maiden, but at the moment, on Peace of Mind, it was still a novelty. And one little thing I forgot to mention about Revelations is that when you go back and listen to some of these Iron Maiden studio albums, it actually surprises me at how slow the tempo is. Like particularly that very start of Revelations, like yeah, it's like a guitar strum, and then you're checking what's like, aren't we due another guitar strum? Oh, there it is, sort of thing. Whereas live they play it with a bit more speed.
Which I don't always like, I have to be honest with you. Like I don't really like when they do Hallowed too fast live. That's my pet peeve about live after.
You should hear what Phantom of the Opera sounds like played at breakneck speed.
No, I don't like that either. I like it. I like the studio versions a little bit. I like them to be a little bit slower.
Yeah, this is something we'll touch on a bit later, but Adrian felt similarly, and that was part of the reason why he left the band. He didn't like how they were squeezing the life out of some of these songs with the tempo they were playing them at.
Yeah, I agree. And
Definitely
it's tough.
noticeable.
And it's tough on Bruce as well. I mean, we're not going to talk about Hallowed, but or Live After Death, but I mean that's a fine example of him trying to like cram everything that all the words in while they're speeding it up.
It's always funny if you listen to the live albums intensely for a little while, and then you have to listen to the studio albums for an amount of time. You go back to them, and it's kind of shocking. It sounds almost alien. But
it's like Bruce is hitting every note without struggling. It's like that doesn't happen live. I mean, Bruce is a fantastic singer live, but there is a difference between, for example, Bruce live after Death and then Number of the Beast, and say, for example, Defenders of the Faith, and then what Rob Halford was doing on the Fuel for Life tour. Like Rob Halford was exceeding the studio versions vocally, whereas Bruce, I don't think Bruce has ever been that good. I mean, I don't want to pit the two bands against each other, but it's Bruce is an amazing singer, but there is a clear difference between him and Halford.
But do you think a lot of that has to do with the fact that when he's singing live, he has to sing fast, like he has to sing faster, he has to keep up with the beat a little bit more?
Possibly. I mean, Bruce still sounds great live, but Halford had that like magical 86 through 88 period where his voice was just inhumanly good.
Yeah, true.
Which Bruce admittedly never had a period like that.
All right, well, let's jump ahead to a song that I don't believe has ever been played live, and my least favorite song in the album, and one of the other songs that's based on a movie. There was a big fad for a movie in the 80s called Quest for Fire, and I'll explain why it's my least favorite song if Melissa doesn't cover it in her spiel. Melissa, over to you.
Okay, well, I probably will. So it's a short song. Everybody complains about this song. It is based on the 1981 movie Quest for Fire. Fun fact, Tommy Chong's daughter, Ray Dawn, was in this movie. I did see this movie. I don't highly recommend it. It's kind of a B movie. It's fine. But everybody complains about When Dinosaurs Walk the Earth, right? Here's the thing. And this is why I defend this song. And yes, it's probably the weakest. It is definitely, in my opinion, the weakest song on this album. So let's just get that out of the way. But here's the thing. And I think I said this on Metal Twitter. It is not Steve Harris's responsibility to teach you about evolution. It's just a catchy song. There are plenty of songs that are grammatically incorrect, that are factually incorrect, that are historical fiction, whatever. Like I think that people get hung up on that whole When Dinosaurs Walk the Earth. If you watch this movie, there's nothing about this movie that screams factual. This is how cave people actually lived, or this is what actually happened back then. You know what I mean? It's a fantasy. And so I think that people kind of need to get off of that. It's a good song. It's a catchy song. It's got a great guitar solo. I think people just get so freaked out about that one line that they don't listen to the rest of the song. Is it the weakest song on the album? Yes, it is. But that being said, it's not that bad of a song. I like the song, actually, and I would like to see it live.
Okay, so you just basically explained what I was going to say. There are other things I don't like about it, though, and I don't like that one line where Bruce screams, "When the land was swamps and the caves, we're home." That has never sounded right to me, that we're home. Yeah.
That's the problem I had with Invaders, because all the verses were
right,
like that.
Right. Now that dinosaurs line aside, I do find the lyrics a little clunky. You know, I'm trying to, let me pull up the lyric sheet. Let's do that. Let's pull up the lyric sheet and let's directly quote the stuff that I find clunky. In an age when prized possession was fire, to search for landscapes men would roam. Don't know what that means. Then the tribes, they came to steal the fire, and the wolves, they howled into the night, and they fought a vicious, angry battle to save the power of warmth and light. I find it very clunky. I find it very kind of Dio-ish when he starts talking about the wolves howling in the night. I'm sorry. I can't get behind this one. And I don't dislike the song. I don't. I've spent many miles, Melissa, many miles rocking this album in the car and singing along. And this is the moment where I'm kind of like, I'm not singing as emphatically as I did on Still Life. That's all.
But
that's all I'm going to say.
Do you skip
it? No,
I
never skip. No, I'm like you. I never skip. Ever.
Yeah, ever.
And I guess the last thing that I want to say is just that this is a Steve solo write. I also noted, and this is all perception, sonically, I felt like maybe he's starting to move towards Powerslave a little bit on this song. I don't know. Anyway, over to Harrison, Quest for Fire.
I really like Quest for Fire. I can overlook lyrics because this is primarily a musical format. If I like what it sounds like, I'll be happy. it would take phenomenally bad lyrics for me to actually not want to listen to a song because of the lyrics. There's only like 1 or 2 songs in the all of music that to be fair, I don't listen to a few genres that may have questionable lyrics, but there is only like 1 or 2 songs where I actually really hate the lyrics. I really like Quest for Fire because the vocal melodies bounce along nicely for me. The whole song sort of like bounces along nicely. It's a simple, effective chorus melody that flows well. Like, compare this to Die With Your Boots On, where I hated how it was all haphazard and scatterbrained and like had no flow to it. Quest for Fire flows nicely for me. It's a simple song, but it does it well and it sounds good. I particularly got an amazing dual guitar intro and amazing dual guitar solo, basically, as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so we move on to another deep cut. This side is loaded with deep cuts. We have now Sun and Steel, a Bruce Dickinson solo write, and his first song about fencing. So over to Melissa.
All right. So they love this. They clearly love this song because they named a beer after it, right? I love this song. I love this song. I'm hoping that we get this song on the next tour. I'm really, really hoping that they do this song on the next tour. Yes, it is. It is about. I wrote his name down because I'm gonna say it wrong. It's wait a minute. Sorry.
You know what? I misspoke.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I misspoke. This is a Dickinson Smith write. This isn't a Dickinson solo write. My mistake.
Another edit. All right. So Sun and Steel. It's a great song. They love this song because it's, it's a, they made a beer, they named a beer after it. It is, it's Bruce and Adrian. It's underrated. It's about a Japanese samurai. His name is, and I had to write this down because I never say it right, Miyamoto Musashi. He's 1584 to 1645. He was known for, he created this style of fighting with 2 swords, a big one and a small one. He never lost a fight, and then he became a sort of like a teacher, and he wrote these books. There was 5 books. They talk about the books in the song. I didn't read the books. Joe Rogan has a tattoo of this guy on his leg, apparently. And apparently you can see that on the internet. I did not see it, but I hear it's there. This song is so amazing. And I think that this is a guy that Bruce looks up to, and he probably read his books and has done a lot with his teachings and has learned a lot from him, learned a lot from his teachings is what I'm trying to say. And I think that this again, it's another song that's an intelligent song. I mean, we sort of talked about Quest for Fire is kind of like not a very intelligent song. This is an intelligent song about a real life person that you can actually go to the library and read about. And great guitar solo, as always.
So what I love about doing these episodes is in every single episode I learn something. So that's probably the most I have learned in this episode so far. That's awesome. Thank you, Melissa. So I totally misspoke when I said it was about fencing. It's actually about the and I know what you're talking
Kendo
about.
would have been the song for fighting.
And to use a Star Wars reference, the character of Ahsoka Tano uses the long sword and the short sword. So that's awesome. Thank you. I have nothing to add to that except I think this should have been a single. It could have been a single. It's got the kind of chorus that would necessitate a single.
It's got an Adrian Smith chorus for sure.
Yeah, but aside from the gallop, aside from that, I think this is like a rock and roll song. It could have been a single. It really could have been. This is yet another Iron Maiden song that is very close to that commercial edge, and I love it. It's again one of those deep cuts that this album is chock full of, and I felt so strongly about this song being a single that when I was a child I drew my own single art for it. So I showed Eddie and the devil, of course, because you had to have that devil on the Maiden covers. You have to have them fighting, and in my version of it, the devil had Eddie just on the edge of a cliff and he's gonna fall off the edge of a cliff. But that's my conception.
Are you going to?
I'm sorry?
Are you going to put that graphic up so we can see it?
I don't have it anymore.
Oh, no,
But I did have it taped to my wall at one point. Yeah. Iron Maiden, Sun and Steel. Over to Harrison for Sun and Steel.
But anyway, Sun and Steel. I hate this song so much. There are only 4 Iron Maiden songs I dislike, and this is number 2. The verses have this incredibly annoying chug to them that's saying, and then the chorus, like the worst. Well, actually, it's not the worst Iron Maiden chorus. Tail Gunner's worse, but to me. But oh god, there's so many, all these extra Bruces. It sounds terrible. It's god, that awful layering. It goes on for so long, for so much of it. This song makes my skin crawl. I really don't skip songs, but I make an exception for this one.
Wow, that's serious. I've never heard anybody say that they hate this song. I've heard people say they don't really know it that well because it's kind of a deep cut and they never flip the album over, but I've never heard anybody be that emphatically against this song.
I'm still feeling the heat from that sick burn. Whew. I'll start this final song with a story, which is it is based on Dune by Frank Herbert, and they wanted to call
some
the
cassette
song.
copies of the album allegedly still have the word Dune as track 9.
Well, that's the story, right? They wanted to call the song Dune, but they would have needed permission. So contact was made with the Frank Herbert camp, and they heard back from Mr. Herbert's camp with the message that Mr. Herbert does not like rock bands and definitely not rock bands like Iron Maiden. So track 9, the final closer and real serious Maiden epic, is called To Tame a Land. But let's not kid ourselves. They name drop Arrakis. They name drop Muad'Dib, Quetzalcoatl Haderach, Gom Jabbar. All of these things are named. So there's
talk about
no
difficult
confusion.
lyrics.
Yes, and again, I memorized this as a kid. But Melissa, we're talking about books. We're talking about all this stuff. What do you have to say about To Tame a Land?
Okay, so Dune, read the book, don't see the movie. The movie's not that good. And I did not see the remake. Read the book. That said, you definitely know that this song is about Dune. And if you read the book, then obviously all the things that they've name checked, you're familiar with that. So they didn't mask it very well. That's for sure. A lot of people knock this because much like with the whole Alexander the Great, they say it's a wiki page. They say they're just like regurgitating the book. They're not really telling you a story. They're just kind of, but I have to disagree because I guess maybe because I read the book, I know the story. And maybe it's one of those things where you have to read the book in order to understand the song. That maybe if you're not really familiar with the book, that
100% agreed. 100%. My perception of this song completely changed.
That you don't really know what he's talking about, and so that takes away from the song, obviously, right? Because I don't know what the percentage of the population is that read the book Dune or even saw the movie. Probably more people saw the movie than read the book, sadly. But if you didn't, then you don't really know. Like it's different than like Sun and Steel. Harrison, forgive me. In that you don't know this guy, but the song, even though it's about him, you don't have to have known who that is to understand the song. Whereas I think that with To Tame a Land, and I love this song, by the way, you do have to kind of know the subject matter in order to sort of understand the song. That said, you don't have to really like the lyrics or understand the lyrics in order to love the song because the music is great.
Very hard to sing though. Like even some of the words like Quetzalcoatl Haderach. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I think I'm saying it pretty close. But these are tongue twisters. And but musically,
Bruce Dickinson did it live.
Yeah. Musically though, that there's a very exotic riff that and it's very Powerslave. Like they're clearly heading in that direction.
And Richie Blackmore.
Oh yeah, good point. Very Blackmore. But if I had to tell you my favorite part of this song over all the other parts of this song that I love, because there's many, It's the time has come for him to lay claim his crown, and then the foe, they will be cut down. You'll see he'll be the best that there's been, Messiah supreme, true leader of men. And that's as much as far as I'm going to go with my memorized lyrics. But you know that whole part as it builds and builds and builds to that final line. He has the power to make it all end. And he holds that note. And he holds that note, and then the band continues with and it goes on to the end. What a song. There's never a dull moment into Tame A Land, and you can't always say that about an Iron Maiden epic. Even Rime of the Ancient Mariner, I don't think you can necessarily say that about. There's never a dull moment into Tame A Land. It's a shame they couldn't call it Dune. And David Lynch's Dune, what was that? Did that come out in 1984? I think it did. They were right on the cusp of being able to tie it in. But maybe it's a good thing that they didn't, because as Melissa said, that movie's kind of stinky. Kyle MacLachlan starred in that version, and Sting was in it, and Patrick
that was
Stewart
the big news,
was in
right?
it.
Sting was in that movie. That was the big news.
Yeah, and he was bare-chested and totally
listen,
cut.
I love David Lynch. For the record,
rest in peace.
He just recently passed away, and I love David Lynch, but that was not a David Lynch movie that I really enjoyed. And maybe I didn't like it because I had already read the book, because a lot of people that I know that did like the movie never read the book.
There are two totally different things. The book is world building, and that's what makes it so readable. And you say, it's the Wikipedia version. Some people say it's the Wikipedia version of Dune. Okay, it's 8 minutes long. Dune is like that, and that's and that only scratches the surface of what Dune is, because there's so much more to it, including an amazing almost adaptation by Jodorowsky that there's a fantastic documentary about Jodorowsky's Dune, and some of that artwork ended up being used by Ian Gillan Band. Anyway, I've dragged it on. Let's go over to Harrison to Tame A Land.
I like To Tame A Land, but Ancient Mariner it is not. Now, I will give you the point that Ancient Mariner certainly has a lull point in it, but I've always considered Tame A Land to be one of those lesser Maiden epics like Alexander the Great. Like, they're good, but there's a level that Ancient Mariner and Seventh Son of a Seventh Son is on, and Hallowed Be Thy Name, and I don't think To Tame A Land is on that level.
Okay, that's fair. It's probably not, but this is all very personal as well, and for some it may be.
I haven't read the book, seen the movie or anything, so I have no connection to Dune. So
okay,
I'm just listening to the song on its
musical. Let me ask you this, Harrison: if you never saw the movie and you never read the book, when you listen to the lyrics, do they make sense to you, or is it just
No, but they sound cool.
Oh,
okay. I am peripherally aware of some of the elements of Dune, like he's the Messiah, like spice, and on a desert planet called Dune. Like the lyrics sound cool, even if they don't mean anything to me. Like he's the king of all the land in a kingdom of the sands. Born of Caladan, I believe that's what he says.
Caladan.
Okay. Yeah, shows how much I know, but yeah, they're cool, the lyrics.
I can't argue with that. All right, so before we dive into some B-sides, I just want to address the cover art real quick. As Harrison knows, I believe that there's a continuity going on from Iron Maiden cover to cover for some of these albums of the Derek Riggs era. So on the last album, we had Eddie in Battle with the Devil, puppeteering the devil as his plaything. But then if you look really closely, it's actually the devil puppeteering Eddie.
Well, it's funny. Rod Smallwood actually describes it the other way around. He said the artwork was created as a sort of like, who's more evil? You think that the devil is above Eddie, he's more evil, but actually you've got Eddie above the devil as the supreme evil thing. So it's certainly open to interpretation.
In my personal interpretation, that was the
Sorry,
devil.
I don't mean to shoot you down or anything like that.
No, that's quite all right.
It's just
I like the official interpretation is good, but in my interpretation, the devil won that battle, and now Eddie is imprisoned in this asylum. He's been lobotomized. His hair is shaved. We'll just do a little close up here. His hair is gone. His head has been cut open, and there's a bolt holding it shut. And he's chained up, so he cannot escape out this window. But there's Derek Riggs' little signature right there. The hand is holding it in a necklace. Derek Riggs' signature. One of my favorite Iron Maiden covers, even though it's very, very different for them.
But I think that Eddie actually lost his hair when he joined the army, because if you see the Trooper Eddie doesn't have any hair, so I think maybe he got a haircut before he got a lobotomy.
Although
There's
the Trooper
another
come
great
out as a single
interpretation.
before or after the album was released.
He's got hair on Flight of Icarus, so Melissa might have a very good point here. Who knows? Okay.
Maybe his hair
He
caught
got
fire
a
and
haircut.
burned
He
off.
got a haircut and in a lobotomy.
It's funny because
Shade-
Eddie's cell is seen in that Flight of Icarus artwork in the very bottom, I believe. Funny, maybe his hair caught fire and burnt off.
So before we get too far off the rails, let's bring it back. Let's really quickly knock out these two B-sides. They are both covers. So we have I've Got the Fire by Montrose. This is the second time that they've released I've Got the Fire as a B-side, and Cross-Eyed Mary by Jethro Tull. I'll just talk real quick about these both, and then you guys can add if you have anything to add. I think I've Got the Fire is actually the second best version by Iron Maiden. I prefer the live Paul Di'Anno version, but I'm not complaining. This is awesome. It's I've Got the Fire re-recorded with Nicko and Bruce now, and great. It's a great song. It's got an amazing riff. We loved I've Got the Fire right from kids. Cross-Eyed Mary, not so much. I never liked that song so much, and I don't like Maiden's version of it. If I'm going to go for a Jethro Tull cover, I'm going to do Wasp doing Locomotive Breath. You guys, you have any thoughts?
So, yeah. So I agree with you that the Paul version is the better of the two versions. I really like that. I like the song anyway. I like Montrose. I'm old enough to remember Montrose. So, and Jethro. So, Montrose, of course, we're talking about Ronnie Montrose, Sammy Hagar on vocals. You know, I mean, Bruce has a better voice than Sammy Hagar. There you go. Fun fact, the band Haunt, Trevor Church, his father is Bill Church, who was the bass player for Montrose on this album and the self-titled album beforehand. Anyway, I love Montrose and I love this album and I love this song, but I do think that the Paul version is the best version of the two, that the Bruce and I think the reason why is I think that there's something about Paul's vocals that are grittier. They kind of work the song better. And I do love Nicko, but I think Clive's drumming is just miles ahead on the Paul version. I like the Paul version better because I like Clive on that one. As for the Jethro Tull song, so kind of little story. I'm a huge Jethro Tull fan, and again, old enough to remember Jethro Tull. And one of the first 8 tracks that I got was Bursting Out 1978. It's a live Jethro Tull album, and that is my favorite version of Cross-Eyed Mary. So you can go check that out if you want. It's on Spotify.
I have that album.
Yeah, I love that version. I love that version of Cross-Eyed Mary. I like the song Cross-Eyed Mary, and I like the Maiden version. I think that as far as their B-sides go, I think it's one of their better ones. My favorite is Massacre, which is a Thin Lizzy cover, but
Amazing cover for sure.
I think they did a good job. I don't dislike it. If I'm going to listen to Cross-Eyed Mary, I'm probably going to listen to Jethro Tull, and I'm probably going to listen to Bursting Out.
Okay, fair enough. Harrison.
Similarly, I prefer the Paul version of I've Got the Fire. I used to really dislike the Bruce version, but I've come around on it slightly. I can appreciate what it brings to the table that's different. Cross-Eyed Mary, meanwhile, I'm not a Jethro Tull fan. I haven't heard a single thing of theirs. This Maiden cover is the only thing of theirs I've heard. But I really like this cover. Bruce's voice soars. I think it's great. It's got a bit of a sprinkle of Sabbath, I think, to the Maiden to the Maiden style. And funnily enough, this song actually got a fair bit of airplay in the United States. Rod Smallwood talks about how it got to the point that the label wanted to go to radio proper with it, and Rod wouldn't let them because he said it wasn't indicative of what the band does.
Yeah, song. It was
but would go on to say that it was pretty good work for just a B-side, considering they got bugger all airplay in the US.
Yeah, they did get airplay here, And it also bumped up Jethro Tull because people kind of went back and listened to the original version, and people on the they were playing it on the radio. They were playing the original version on the radio as well. The original version has that flute intro, which obviously they don't do flutes. So I do like the guitar intro is cool. But yeah, it got airplay, and it helped them, and it helped Jethro Tull.
Yeah, good point about the guitars playing the flute intro. Forgot to mention that. Yeah. All right. So at this point of the show, we always like to hand the stage over to Harrison, who's going to tell us all about the Peace of Mind tour, the songs they played, and the songs they didn't. There is a story that happened on the Peace of Mind tour, but I believe we're going to save that for the Powerslave episode. So stay tuned for that.
I will.
So we're going to
avoid briefly allude to it.
Briefly allude to the story, but we're going to save that one for Powerslave. So fans who who know about the story about F My Old Boots, we'll get there. Harrison, over to you. The tour.
All right, the World Peace Tour. And sidebar, I always loved how Iron Maiden named their tours in a way that was sort of like a callback to the album, like No Prayer on the Road and Somewhere on Tour. Like, you know, I hate to be like Priest versus Maiden here, but like Operation Rock and Roll, Fuel for Life, Mercenaries of Metal doesn't tell you anything, but World Peace, you know instantly that's Peace of Mind tour.
World Slavery tour is another great example.
Course,
World
yes.
Slavery,
Slave, yeah.
Seventh tour of a seventh tour.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. I really like all these little names, particularly World Peace, spelled P-I-E-C, like the album. But this tour itself, 139 shows, all headlining, no support date. Where this gets a little funny is the final date in Dortmund. They were the top band on a bill of Judas Priest, Ozzy Osbourne, Scorpions, Def Leppard, and Quiet Riot, and Maiden were headliners. And only a year previously, I think it was the Number of the Beast tour, they were supporting the Scorpions, might have been Killers. I think it was Beast. And now they're headlining a bill that not only includes the Scorpions in their home country of Germany, but Ozzy and Priest. And, you know, in a way, I think Peace of Mind could have been the high point of Maiden's career. Like, it was probably the most airplay they got in the US. They would have been very well known here, you know, topping this bill. Like, it was certainly one of the best times in their career. And it was at this very show that they killed Eddie, where the big Walk on Eddie came on stage. Bruce ripped his head off and started pulling women's tights with food coloring and balloons in it to simulate ripping his brains out. This was an act that was deemed too violent to be shown on German TV, and so was cut from the broadcast. But this first death, would manifest itself in the artwork for the next album. But to the set list, so they played 6 songs from the album on the regular, Where Eagles Dare, which they opened with. Now, unlike what is sort of the standard fare for Maiden, especially these days since Reunion is a 1-2 salvo of songs from the new album, they instead went into Wrathchild for the second song. They haven't firmly established that. In fact, as we mentioned on Beast Over Hammersmith, they opened with 2 Di'Anno tracks during that Number of the Beast tour. So it was a far cry from what they'd become. But anyway, back to the set list. So Where Eagles Dare, Revelations, Flight of Icarus, Die With Your Boots On, The Trooper, and To Tame A Land, making its to date only live appearance on a tour. They also played Still Life on about 30 dates, but it was not a regular. Additionally, Prowler was an occasional second encore to end the show, but once again didn't appear on every show. And then one show, I believe it was Florida, they played Running Free. There were a couple other things, like I've Got the Fire got played once or twice, you know. There was one other, Tush, ZZ Top's got covered once or twice as a final encore. But that was the main set. There was a return of a few Beast songs, like Acacia Avenue, the 3 most famous ones. But other than that, they once again brought Peace of Mind out for a very strong support tour. Melissa, did you want to say something?
I did, because I saw that tour.
Nice.
And I saw that show in Pembroke Pines at the Hollywood Sportatorium where they ended with Running Free.
Oh wow, you got to. That was like one date that we have recording of Running Feet played, and you got to see that. That's amazing on that.
Yes. So I saw that tour twice. I saw it in Hollywood. Well, it's technically Pembroke Pines, Florida, and I saw it in Lakeland, Florida, the Lakeland Civic Center, and then at Lakeland they just ended with Drifter, and Quiet Riot opened for them.
Nice.
Quiet Riot were huge at that time. They just peaked with Mental Health.
So yeah, that's Maiden were heavyweights. They finally reached that proper heavyweight status in terms of touring. Regarding live stuff from this tour, there's very little. There's no official full-length live album. There's no official like abridged live album. There's only the Dortmund 83 broadcast, which was 6 songs or 7 songs, I can't recall exactly, which is available on the Early Days DVD. Additionally, there's also Elo Texas, which is a 15-minute documentary. They play Flight of Icarus. They play half of 22 Acacia Avenue and half of Iron Maiden. When I say they play it, you can only see. There's obviously documentary footage. It's funny, an interesting part about this footage is Bruce actually refers to the band as playing heavy rock as opposed to heavy metal, which, as we sort of alluded to in the Number of the Beast era, these labels that the record labels would give bands to sort of market them isn't always what the band would claim, or the band themselves would claim that they play. I believe Motorhead always basically introduced themselves as, we are Motorhead, we play rock and roll. Yeah. Whereas, he didn't
like being associated with metal. He didn't want to be called a metal artist.
Yeah, whereas the sort of retrospective take is, of course, Motorhead is heavy metal. So, yeah, it's interesting. But anyway, back to the Dortmund show. While it is the only official live footage we have, it was didn't have as many Peace of Mind songs. There was no Still Life, there was no Prowl. Sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. Dortmund. There was no Where Eagles Dare. There was no Die With Your Boots On. No To Tame A Land. So it was really only Flight of Icarus and the Trooper from the album that made it there. Now there is just very recently, I mean like November last year, there was finally a soundboard bootleg discovered from Munich, 1983. So we finally have a really nice, good quality soundboard bootleg from the Peace of Mind tour. There are some really good audience recordings like Hammersmith and Ipswich 1983, but soundboard, Ipswich particularly sounds really good. Almost on par with Munich, but Munich is soundboard, so there is that the levels are right. Unfortunately, it's one of the more standard sets. There's no Prowler, there's no Still Life, but you still get to Tame A Land, which is neat. But anyway, so we did briefly mention that in Allentown, Pennsylvania, there was an incident that occurred during Nicko's drum solo that would go on to manifest itself in a future B-side.
Yes.
But to cap it all off, regarding the future of Peace of Mind in the live set, it has been very well represented, especially in the 80s. You look at Live After Death, and there's like 5 songs, I think, from Peace of Mind on there. Die With Your Boots On, we think of Die With Your Boots On as a deep cut, but it was played on the World Peace Tour. It was played on the World Slavery Tour. It was played on the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son Tour, and then it appeared on the No Prayer for the Dying Tour. So out of the next 5 tours, it made 4 appearances. So even though it's become a deep cut these days, it showed up quite a lot. And the Trooper has appeared on every single tour. It might not have appeared on every leg of every tour. Like, for example, it wasn't played on the 2006 leg of the A Matter of Life and Death tour, but it appeared on the 2007 leg. So every tour, the Trooper has made an appearance with at least some regularity. In fact, the only tour it was not played at was the Somewhere in Time tour. And then it made sporadic appearances on the Seventh Son of a Seventh Son tour. But after that, it's been a shoe-in, even during the Blaze era.
Correct.
Awesome. Well, that about sums up Peace of Mind. I am going to give Peace of Mind, regardless of my criticism of Quest for Fire, I'm going to give this album a 10 out of 10. It is flawless. The production is magnificent. And there is a Funko Pop. There you go. What do you guys rate Peace of Mind?
Number 1.
There you go. Look at that.
So for me, Peace of Mind is a 4 out of 5 stars. Now, compared to a lot of other bands' albums, it still stacks up very well. But in the Iron Maiden, it falls into the bottom third for me.
Okay. Well, that's why we call him Harrison the Contrarian Cop, because he doesn't always align with some of our other
That's
guests.
good. You want to have different
And I
points of
take
view.
great
All right, that's
pride
why
in
we
that.
love him, and not only that, but I mean, he's an encyclopedia of live tours, especially for this band. So once again, I would just like to say thank you to Harrison for all that tour information, and of course, thank you to Melissa for educating us tonight. My takeaway from this is go to the library and get one of these books that she's been talking about. Check her out at the Metal Chat. Sorry, go ahead.
So go to the library, kids.
Yep, go to the library. It's still there. Check Melissa out at the Metal Chat podcast. You can get it wherever you get a good podcast. Thank you once again for joining us for 50 years of Iron Maiden. Next episode might be a special one, but we'll keep it under wraps for now. Take care, everybody. Leave a comment. Like and subscribe. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.